The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive structure that had witnessed 10,000 years of galactic history. Inside, representatives from 12 powerful species sat in their designated seats, each one carved from materials found only on their home worlds. The chamber's walls displayed star maps showing every system under their control, and there were thousands of them. Commander Vex Thor stood at the center platform, his tall frame casting shadows across the polished floor. He belonged to the Zentari species, known throughout the galaxy for their military strength and their unwillingness to accept failure. Today, he had come to present a new world for the Council's consideration. "Honored members," Vex Thor began, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. "I present to you a world in the outer spiral arm. The natives call it Earth." A holographic image appeared above the platform, showing a blue and green planet spinning slowly. Clouds swirled across its surface, and 2 ice caps marked its poles. To the council members, it looked like thousands of other worlds they had already claimed. "Our scouts have monitored this world for 300 years, Vex Thor continued. "The dominant species calls themselves humans. They have recently developed primitive space travel, but their technology remains centuries behind our own. They have nuclear weapons, but these pose no threat to our shields." One of the council members, a floating creature from the water world of Selfie, spoke through its translation device. "What resources does this world possess?" One quote. "Want resources?" One quote. Vex Thor smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "The planet is remarkably rich. Rare minerals exist in quantities we have not seen in 1,000 years. The water is pure and abundant. The atmosphere is perfect for 70% of our member species. And the location provides strategic value for our expansion into that sector." Another council member asked about the population. Vex Thor's expression showed something close to amusement. "Approximately 8 billion individuals. They are divided into nearly 200 separate governments. They fight among themselves, constantly. Their unity is fragile, at best." The council members looked at each other. This was the information they needed. A divided species was easy to conquer. Throughout their long history, the council had learned that worlds which could not stand together would fall quickly when faced with superior force. "What is your recommendation, Commander?" asked Ambassador Tilrek of the Corvin Harmony. His species had been part of the council for 8,000 years, though few remembered they had once been conquered too. "Standard compliance protocol," Vex Thor replied. "We present the ultimatum. They will see our fleet and understand resistance is pointless. Within 1 rotation of their planet, they will surrender. They always do." The vote was called. One by one, each council member indicated their approval. Not a single voice spoke against the motion. Earth would become tributary world number 3,847. The council had done this so many times that it had become routine. While the council made its decision in the cold darkness of space, life on Earth continued without any knowledge of what was coming. Jake Morrison sat in the command chair of the ISS Unity, humanity's first deep space exploration vessel. The ship was currently near Jupiter, collecting data about the gas giant's moons. "Captain, we're getting some strange readings," said his science officer, looking confused at her display screen. "There's something big coming from outside the solar system." Jake leaned forward in his chair. "Define big." "Sir, I mean really big. Multiple objects. They're moving faster than anything we've ever built." Before Jake could respond, every screen on his ship went blank. Then they all showed the same image. The Zentari fleet appearing in Earth's orbit. Jake felt his blood run cold. There were hundreds of ships, each one larger than any structure humanity had ever built. On Earth, the same thing was happening everywhere. Every television, every computer screen, every phone displayed the same message. It appeared in every language simultaneously. The translation was perfect. "People of Earth," the message began. "You have been selected for integration into the Galactic Council. You have 72 hours to surrender your sovereignty. Your world will become a tributary of the Council. You will provide resources and labor as directed. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your military forces and major population centers. This is not a negotiation. You have 72 hours. Dr. Emma Clark was working late at the SETI facility when the message appeared on her screen. For 15 years, she had searched for signals from space, hoping to find proof that humanity was not alone in the universe. Now she had her answer, and it was nothing like she had imagined. She grabbed her phone and called her supervisor, but he was already watching the same message. Everyone on Earth was watching it. The phone networks were overloading as billions of people tried to call their loved ones at once. Lieutenant Ben Hayes stood on the bridge of the USS Valiant, one of Earth's newest space defense platforms. He watched the alien fleet through the station's cameras, counting the ships. There were over 300 of them, and each one made the Valiant look like a toy. "Sir," he said to his commanding officer, "what are our orders?" The commander stared at the screen for a long moment before answering. "We wait for orders from Earth Command." "But Hayes, start running calculations. I want to know if our weapons can even scratch their hulls." Hayes ran the numbers. The results were not encouraging. The Valiant's most powerful weapons would probably bounce off the alien shields without causing any damage. It was like bringing a knife to a gunfight, except worse. In New York, the United Nations building became the center of frantic activity. President Lisa Anderson of the United States arrived along with leaders from every major nation. The Secretary General called an emergency session. The chamber filled quickly, but no one seemed to know what to say. Around the world, people reacted in different ways. Some panicked and tried to flee the cities. Some gathered in churches and temples to pray. Some went to their families to hold them close, and some got angry. On social media, messages spread rapidly. Some called for immediate surrender. Others declared they would rather die than submit to alien overlords. Arguments broke out as people tried to process what was happening. The Zentari fleet maintained its position in high orbit, visible to anyone with a telescope. They did not attack. They did not communicate further. They simply waited, confident that Earth would surrender just as every other species had done before them. Commander Vexthor watched Earth from his flagship, studying the chaos below. He had seen this same pattern dozens of times. First came the shock. Then the denial. Then the desperate scrambling as they realized they had no choice. Finally came the surrender. It always happened this way. He estimated Earth would surrender within 48 hours. 72 hours was usually more than enough time. Some species surrendered in less than 12 hours. Only twice in his career had a species waited until the final hour. And both times, they had surrendered with minutes to spare. The countdown had begun. Earth had 72 hours to make its choice. But everyone in the galaxy knew what that choice would be. It was always the same. Resistance was pointless when faced with such overwhelming force, or so they thought. The first 24 hours passed in chaos. Governments struggled to maintain order as people emptied grocery stores and gas stations. Stock markets crashed within hours. Some cities saw riots while others saw an eerie calm as people simply went home to be with their families. President Lisa Anderson stood before the United Nations Assembly, her face showing the exhaustion that every world leader felt. She had not slept since the aliens arrived. None of them had. "We have received reports from our scientists," she said, her voice steady despite everything. "The alien technology is far beyond our own. Our weapons will not penetrate their shields. Our fastest ships cannot outrun theirs. In a direct confrontation, we would lose within minutes." The French ambassador stood up. "Then we have no choice but to surrender. We must save our people." "Save them for what?" The response came from the Russian representative. "To be slaves? To mine resources for our conquerors? My grandfather lived under oppression. He taught me that some things are worse than death." The chamber erupted in argument. Some nations wanted to surrender immediately. Others wanted to fight, despite the odds. A few suggested trying to negotiate, though the alien message had been clear that this was not a negotiation. While leaders argued, Dr. Emma Clark was making a discovery that would change everything. She sat in her small office at the SETI facility, surrounded by computer screens displaying alien signal data. For years, she had studied radio astronomy. Now she was studying the aliens' own communications. This is incredible, she muttered to herself, typing rapidly. The Zentari were broadcasting constantly, coordinating their fleet through open channels. They used sophisticated technology, but they did not encrypt their military communications. Why would they? No primitive species had ever possessed the ability to intercept their signals during an invasion. Emma picked up her phone and called General Kevin Drake at Space Command. She had met him once at a conference years ago. She hoped he would remember her. "General Drake," she said when he answered. "This is Dr. Emma Clark from SETI. I need to tell you something important about the aliens." Drake listened as she explained what she had found. For the first time, in 24 hours, he felt something other than despair. Can you hack their network?" "Hack? No," Emma said. "But I can piggyback on it. If we could get close enough to their command ship, we could broadcast through their own network. The signal would reach across the galaxy." "What good does that do us?" Drake asked. "It means we can make sure everyone is watching when we give our answer." Drake was silent for a moment. Then he said, "Come to Space Command. Bring everything you have. I'm assigning someone to work with you." That someone turned out to be Lieutenant Ben Hayes from the USS Valiant. He arrived at Space Command 12 hours later, still wearing his uniform from the defense platform. He found Emma in a secure room filled with computer equipment. "Lieutenant Hayes reporting as ordered," he said. Emma looked up from her screen. "Do you know anything about alien communication protocols?" "Not a thing," Hayes admitted. "But I'm a fast learner." They worked through the night, surviving on coffee and determination. Hayes proved to be exactly what Emma needed, someone who could think creatively about technical problems. Together, they mapped the Zentari communication network, finding its nodes and relay points. "We can do it," Emma said finally, as the sun rose outside. "But we need to get a transmitter close to their command ship, really close." General Drake made a call to Captain Jake Morrison, who had brought the ISS Unity back from Jupiter as fast as the ship could travel. Jake listened to the plan, knowing it was dangerous, but also knowing it might be humanity's only chance to be heard. "We'll do it," Jake said. "The Unity wasn't built for combat. But she's fast, and she's got the best sensor suite we ever made. If anyone can get close to that command ship, it's us." While this small team worked on their plan, something unexpected was happening across Earth. The chaos of the first day was giving way to something else. People were not surrendering to despair. Instead, they were finding their courage. In Tokyo, millions of people gathered in the streets, not to riot, but to stand together in silence. In London, Big Ben continued to chime every hour, a reminder that life went on. In Mumbai, temples opened their doors to everyone regardless of faith. In New York, volunteers organized to help the elderly and the vulnerable. Social media transformed from a place of panic to a place of defiance. A hashtag emerged and spread across the world. Unbroken, people shared stories of humanity's resilience, its ability to survive disasters and come back stronger. They shared images of their families, their cities, their planet. A video went viral of a grandmother in Mexico speaking to the camera. "My grandfather fought for our freedom," she said in Spanish. "My parents fought for our rights. Now it's my turn. I am 83 years old. I have lived a good life. If I must die to stay free, then I die proud." Her words were translated into every language. Millions of people echoed her sentiment. President Anderson watched these developments with amazement. She called together leaders from China, Russia, the UK, India, and the European Union. These nations had been rivals, sometimes enemies, but now they sat together with a common purpose. The people have made their choice, she said. They want to fight. Prime Minister Ryan Cole of the UK nodded. My military advisors say we cannot win. But my people say they would rather die standing than live kneeling. I will not ignore them. One by one, the other leaders agreed. Earth would fight. It was suicide, but it was their choice. General Drake called Emma and Hayes into his office. The President has authorized your plan. We're going to broadcast our response through the alien network, but we need to decide what that response will be. Not just a message of defiance, Emma said. That's not enough. We need to tell them who we are. Show them our history, our struggles, everything. The good and the bad. Why? Drake asked. Because this message is not just for the Zentari, Emma explained. It's for every species in the galaxy that might be watching. We need to show them that resistance is possible, that courage matters. Jake Morrison and his crew began preparing the ISS Unity for its dangerous mission. Engineers worked around the clock, attaching every broadcasting antenna they could fit to the ship's hull. The Unity looked strange when they finished, bristling with equipment, but it would work. As the deadline approached, Earth's nations did something unprecedented. Old enemies became allies. Countries that had not spoken in years coordinated their efforts. Every space-capable nation prepared to launch everything they had. The defense platforms, including the USS Valiant, powered up their weapons, knowing they would likely not survive the first engagement. In the final hours before the deadline, President Anderson sat down to record her part of the message. She thought about her daughter, about the world she wanted to leave behind, about the choice humanity faced. She thought about what it meant to be human, to be flawed and violent and beautiful and capable of choosing to be better. And she knew that whatever happened in the next hours, humanity would face it together. The ISS Unity launched from Earth, carrying with it the hopes of 8 billion people. Jake Morrison guided his ship toward the alien fleet, toward the massive command ship at the center. They were ready to deliver humanity's message, and it was not a message of surrender. The ISS Unity slipped through space, moving carefully between the massive alien warships. Every sensor on the ship was active, watching for any sign that the Zentari had noticed them. Jake Morrison kept his hands steady on the controls, guiding his ship closer to the enormous command vessel that dominated the center of the fleet. 2,000 meters to optimal broadcasting range, Emma Clark reported from her station. She had jury-rigged the ship's communication system to piggyback on the Zentari network. Her hands moved across the controls, making final adjustments. The signal is ready. Hayes monitored the tactical display, watching the alien ships around them. Still, no response from the fleet. They either haven't noticed us or don't consider us a threat. Let's hope they keep thinking that, Jake said. The command ship grew larger in the view screen. It was enormous, easily 5 kilometers long, covered in weapons and armor. Next to it, the Unity looked like a mosquito approaching an elephant. 1,000 meters. Emma called out. That's close enough. I've got a solid lock on their network. Jake brought the ship to a stop, using minimal thrust to avoid drawing attention. All right, Emma. Whenever you're ready. Emma took a deep breath and activated the transmission. Across Earth, billions of people watched their screens, knowing that the deadline had arrived. The Zentari expected a message of surrender. Instead, they received something entirely different. The message began simply, with an image of Earth from space, the famous pale blue dot photograph, showing humanity's home as a tiny speck in the vastness of space. Then Dr. Clark's voice began to speak, calm and clear. My name is Emma Clark. I am a scientist from the planet Earth. For 15 years, I searched for signs of intelligent life in the universe. Today, that life came to us, not with greetings of peace, but with demands for our surrender. The image changed, showing humanity's history. But this was not a propaganda piece, showing only achievements. Emma had insisted on brutal honesty. The message showed humanity at its worst. Wars that killed millions. Genocides that tried to erase entire peoples. Slavery that treated human beings as property. Weapons that could destroy cities in seconds. This is who we were, Emma's voice continued. We nearly destroyed ourselves many times. We invented terrible weapons. We committed unspeakable acts against each other. For most of our history, we were divided by race, religion, nationality, and countless other differences. The images kept coming, each one a reminder of humanity's capacity for violence and cruelty. The Zentari command ship received the transmission, and Commander Vex Thor watched with confusion. Why were these humans showing their own weakness? It made no sense, but the message continued. The images shifted, showing something different. They showed the aftermath. Humans helping humans. Former enemies working together. Nations that had fought each other building peace. But this is who we became, Emma said. After every war, we rebuilt. After every atrocity, we asked ourselves how to prevent the next one. We created organizations to promote peace. We wrote laws to protect human rights. We formed alliances between former enemies. We learned that our similarities were greater than our differences. The message showed the International Space Station, built by nations that had once aimed nuclear weapons at each other. It showed the European Union, formed from countries that had spent centuries at war. It showed truth and reconciliation commissions, where victims and perpetrators faced each other and chose healing over revenge. We are not perfect, Emma said. We still fight. We still have problems. But we keep trying to be better. Every generation works to fix the mistakes of the last one. We have never stopped learning. The image changed again, showing President Anderson. She sat in the Oval Office, but she did not look like a defeated leader. Her expression was calm and determined. People of the Galactic Council, Anderson began. You came to our world and gave us a choice. Surrender or die. You offered us no negotiation, no respect, no chance to meet you as equals. You treated us not as intelligent beings, but as resources to be harvested. Anderson paused, letting her words sink in. Across the galaxy, as the message spread through the Zentari network, other species were beginning to receive it. Some were members of the Council, others were tributary worlds, like Earth was supposed to become. Here is our answer, Anderson said. No, we will not surrender. We know we cannot win a military victory. Your technology is far beyond ours. Your fleet could destroy our world, and we could not stop you. But there are some things more important than survival. Freedom is one of them. Dignity is another. The president's voice grew stronger. Humanity has never been good at accepting tyrants. Throughout our history, we have fought against those who tried to enslave us. Sometimes we lost. Sometimes we won. But we always fought. Because a life lived in chains is not a life worth living. The message shifted again. Captain Morrison appeared on screen, speaking from the bridge of the Unity. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations, each one knowing they might not survive the day. This message is not only for the Zentari, Jake said. This is for every species in the galaxy that lives under the rule of the Galactic Council. How many of you were given the same choice we were given today? How many of you surrendered because you were afraid? How many of you wish you had said no? His words hit like a thunderbolt. On tributary worlds across the galaxy, people who had accepted their fate for generations suddenly heard someone speaking the thoughts they had never dared to voice. Earth stands today where you once stood, Jake continued. We are one small world facing an empire of thousands. The smart choice is to surrender. The safe choice is to submit. But we are choosing something else. We are choosing to fight. Not because we think we can win, but because resistance itself has value. The message showed images of Earth preparing for battle. Defense platforms activating their weapons. Fighter pilots climbing into their cockpits. Soldiers taking positions. Citizens refusing to flee their homes. We will probably lose, Jake said honestly. Most of us will probably die. But we will show the galaxy something important. That tyranny is not inevitable. That some people will always choose freedom over safety. That courage still exists in the universe. His voice grew passionate. And maybe, just maybe, someone watching this will remember that they have a choice too. Maybe someone else will find the courage to stand up. Maybe our defeat will inspire someone else's victory. The message was almost over. The final image showed Earth from space again. That beautiful blue and white sphere hanging in the darkness. Across it, one word appeared in every written language known to humanity. Unbroken. Dr. Clark's voice returned for the final words. We are humanity. We have survived ice ages and plagues. We have survived our own worst impulses. We have gone from living in caves to walking on the moon. And today, we choose to remain free. To the Galactic Council, we say this. You can destroy our bodies, but you cannot break our spirit. You can take our lives, but you cannot make us kneel. We will face whatever comes with our heads held high. And to every other species watching, we say, you are not alone. Someone stands with you, even if only in spirit. Resistance is not futile. Hope is not dead. And freedom is worth fighting for. The message ended with a simple declaration. Earth will not surrender. Come and make us. Silence fell across the Unity's bridge. Emma shut down the transmission, her hands shaking slightly. They had done it. The message had been sent through the Zentari network, broadcast across the galaxy. Signal sent successfully, she reported. It's spreading through their communication grid. I estimate it will reach every council world within the hour. Jake looked at his crew. They all knew what came next. The Zentari would attack, Earth would fight, and the galaxy would watch to see what happened when one small world refused to kneel. But they had spoken their truth. They had shown the galaxy that humanity could not be broken. Whatever happened now, they had already won something important. The right to choose their own fate. Commander Vex Thor stared at his screen in disbelief. This was not supposed to happen. Species were supposed to surrender, not broadcast messages of defiance across the galaxy. He reached for his communication controls, preparing to order the attack. But then reports started coming in from other worlds. The message was spreading, and across the galaxy, something was waking up. Commander Vex Thor's hand hovered over the attack command. His orders were clear. Any resistance meant immediate destruction. But something made him pause. Reports were flooding in from across the Zentari fleet, and they all said the same thing. The human message had not stayed on Earth. It was spreading through the galaxy at incredible speed. Sir, we're receiving communications from the Council, his second officer reported. They want you to hold position. Vex Thor growled in frustration. Tell them I can destroy this world in minutes. We should make an example of them. The Council says to wait for instructions, the officer repeated. The message has reached the core worlds. They are convening an emergency session. On the Council's home station, chaos reigned. The 12-member species gathered in emergency session. But this time, there were no calm deliberations. Arguments filled the chamber as representatives shouted at each other. This is an outrage, the Sci-Fi representative declared. They mocked our authority. They must be destroyed immediately. But Ambassador Tilrek of the Corvin Harmony stood and raised his hand for silence. His species was old, one of the first to join the Council, and his words carried weight. If we destroy them now, we create martyrs, he said quietly. Every species in the galaxy saw that message. They watched these humans stand up to us, knowing they would probably die. If we kill them, we prove their point. Are you suggesting we let this insult stand? The Zentari council member demanded. I am suggesting we think before we act, Tilrek replied. Reports are coming in from our tributary worlds. People are talking about the message. Some are questioning why they surrendered. If we turn Earth into a symbol of resistance by destroying it, we risk something far worse than one planet's defiance. The council chamber fell silent as they considered his words. Then, more reports began arriving, and they were troubling. On Krell 7, a mining world that had served the council for 2,000 years, workers had stopped their shifts. They were not rioting. They were not fighting. They were simply standing together in the main square, watching the human message play on every screen. On Soros Prime, an agricultural planet, farmers gathered in their fields. They did the same thing, watching and discussing. On dozens of worlds, the pattern repeated. The message had awakened something that had been sleeping for a very long time. On the Corvin Harmony's home world, something even more significant happened. The younger generation, those who had been born into council membership and never known independence, began asking their elders questions. What had it been like before the council? Why had they surrendered? Did they ever wish they had fought? Lieutenant Hayes monitored the galactic communications from his station on the Unity. What he saw amazed him. Captain, you need to see this. The message has reached over 400 worlds. People are sharing it, translating it, discussing it. Emma Clark worked frantically at her console. I'm picking up responses. Not from the Zentari, but from other species. Some are messages of support. Some are just people saying they saw the message and it made them think. Jake Morrison kept his eyes on the Zentari fleet. They had not moved, but they had not retreated either. The Unity remained dangerously close to the command ship, ready to run if the aliens attacked. Back on Earth, General Drake coordinated the defense. Every weapon humanity possessed was ready. The defense platforms had charged their railguns. Fighter squadrons waited for launch orders. Nuclear missiles sat in their silos, ready to be used as kinetic weapons if needed. It was not much against the Zentari fleet, but it was everything Earth had. President Anderson received a strange communication. It came not from the Zentari, in our well of V, after Redder Tappet, but from an unknown source. The message was brief and in broken English, as if the translator was not very good. We are Corvan. We saw your message. We remember choosing surrender. You have courage we lost. We speak for you in council. Do not lose hope. Anderson stared at the message, hardly believing it. Someone out there was trying to help. She shared it with the other world leaders. And for the first time since the aliens arrived, some of them smiled. The standoff continued. Hours passed, then a full day. The Zentari fleet held position. Earth remained ready to fight. And across the galaxy, the conversation grew louder. 3 minor species sent formal messages to the Council demanding renegotiation of their tributary status. 2 colonies began peaceful strikes, refusing to work until their concerns were addressed. None of this was open rebellion, but it was unprecedented. The Council had not faced questions about its authority in thousands of years. On the Unity, the crew waited tensely. They had enough food and air for another few days, but they could not stay here forever. Captain, we're being hailed, Emma said suddenly. It's not the Zentari. The signal is coming from deeper in the fleet. Jake frowned. Can you identify the source? Emma worked her console, trying to trace the signal. It's coming from one of the smaller ships. Not Zentari design. Maybe one of the other Council species? Put it through, Jake ordered. A face appeared on the screen, belonging to a species Jake had never seen before. The creature had pale blue skin and large dark eyes. When it spoke, The translator converted its words to English. Human Captain, I am Kelvin of the Talaxian Union. My people watch your stand with interest. The Council debates what to do with you. Some want your destruction. Others, including my government, believe you have exposed a truth we have ignored too long. Jake leaned forward. What truth is that? That the Council rules through fear, not consent, Kelvin said. Your message reminded us of something we forgot. We chose to join the Council, but many worlds did not choose. They were forced. Your courage makes us ask, is this the galaxy we want? The connection ended abruptly, but the message was clear. Earth was not alone. They had allies, or at least sympathizers. Within the galactic community, more ships began arriving in Earth's solar system, but these were not warships. They were observers from various species, coming to watch what would happen. Some were officially sent by their governments. Others came without permission, driven by curiosity or hope, or the desire to witness history. The Zentari fleet commander found himself in an impossible situation. He was surrounded by witnesses. If he attacked Earth now, it would not be a quiet subjugation. It would be a public execution watched by hundreds of species. The political consequences could be severe. Commander Vex Thor received new orders from the Council. Continue holding position. Do not attack. Wait for further instructions. He obeyed, though it felt like defeat. The human ship remained close to his command vessel, a tiny thing that should have been swatted like an insect but somehow had become untouchable. On Earth, people began to realize that something unexpected was happening. The aliens were not attacking. Days passed. And still, the fleet held position. Hope began to grow, cautious and fragile, but real. Emma continued monitoring galactic communications. The conversation had spread beyond anything she imagined. Scholars were analyzing human history. Philosophers were debating the ethics of the Council's tributary system. Artists were creating works inspired by Earth's defiance. On 17 different worlds, protests had begun. Not violent uprisings, but peaceful gatherings where people asked questions their governments could not easily answer. Why did they have no voice in the Council? Why could they not choose their own path? Why had Earth's refusal to surrender inspired such powerful feelings? The Galactic Council met in continuous session, arguing about what to do. Some members still wanted Earth destroyed as an example. But others, led by Ambassador Tilrek, argued for a different approach. We face a choice, Tilrek told the Council. We can destroy Earth and possibly ignite rebellion across hundreds of worlds. Or, we can find a new path forward, one that acknowledges what the humans have shown us. That our empire is built on fear, and fear is not enough anymore. The debate raged on, but gradually, a consensus began to form. Not because the Council members suddenly became gentle or kind, but because they were practical. The cost of destroying Earth had become too high. Finally, after 6 days of standoff, the Council made an unprecedented decision. They would negotiate with Earth, not as conquerors offering terms of surrender, but as equals seeking a resolution. President Anderson received the message with disbelief. The Council was asking Earth to send representatives for talks. Real talks. Not just demands for submission. She chose her delegation carefully. General Drake for his military perspective. Dr. Clark for her scientific knowledge and because she had crafted the message that started everything, and Captain Morrison because he represented humanity's spirit of exploration and courage. As the three of them prepared to leave Earth for the Council station, the whole world watched. They did not know what would happen at these talks. But they knew one thing for certain. Humanity had forced the galaxy to see them, not as resources to be harvested, but as people who deserved respect. The ISS Unity finally moved away from the Zentari command ship, heading toward the Council station with Earth's delegation aboard. The Zentari fleet remained in orbit, but they did not follow. The standoff was over. But the real test was just beginning. The Council Station loomed ahead of the ISS Unity, a structure so massive it made Earth's largest buildings look like toys. Captain Jake Morrison guided his ship toward the docking port, aware that every species in the galaxy was watching. The fate of Earth, and perhaps the fate of the entire galactic order, would be decided in the next few hours. Dr. Emma Clark checked her equipment one last time. She had prepared a presentation about human history and culture, but she had no idea if the Council would even listen. General Kevin Drake sat quietly, his military uniform crisp despite the long journey. President Anderson had given them clear instructions. Stand firm, show respect, but never back down. The docking procedures completed, and the three humans stepped off their ship into the station. They were met by Ambassador Tylrek of the Corvin Harmony, whose message had given Earth hope during the darkest hours. "Welcome to the Council Station," Tylrek said, his translation device rendering his words in English. "I must warn you that not all Council members are pleased you are here. Some still want your world destroyed." "Then why are we here?" Drake asked directly. "Because your message changed something," Tylrek replied. "For the first time in 10,000 years, our tributary worlds are asking questions. Your defiance showed them that resistance is possible. The Council must either destroy you and risk widespread rebellion, or find a new way forward." Emma spoke up. Tylrek looked at her with his large, kind eyes. "The same thing you showed in your message. Teach us how you learned to turn enemies into allies. Show us how a divided species became united. Help us build something better than an empire ruled by fear." The council chamber was as imposing as Emma had imagined. 12 representatives sat in their ancient seats, and all eyes turned to the three humans, who walked to the center platform. Emma felt small under their gaze, but she remembered what Earth had survived. She would not show fear here. Commander Vex Thor was present, his expression showing barely controlled anger. He had wanted to destroy Earth, and these negotiations felt like defeat to him. The leader of the council, an ancient being from a species called the Archons, spoke first. Its voice was deep and seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Humans of Earth, you defied us. You chose death over surrender. Your message spread across the galaxy and has caused considerable disruption to the established order. What do you have to say for yourselves?" Emma stepped forward. She had practiced this speech during the journey, but now she spoke from her heart. "We say that we are people, not resources. We say that freedom matters more than safety. We say that any government that rules through fear and force, rather than consent and respect, will eventually fall. That is what history has taught us. You speak boldly for a species that nearly destroyed itself," Vex Thor said sharply. "Your own message showed your wars and atrocities. What makes you think you have anything to teach us?" General Drake answered this time. "Because we learned from our mistakes. That's the point. We committed terrible acts. Yes, but we looked at what we had done, felt shame, and changed. We built organizations to prevent war. We created laws to protect rights. We didn't pretend we were perfect. We admitted we were flawed and worked to be better. And you think the council should do the same?" Another council member asked, skepticism clear in their voice. "We think the council has a choice," Emma said. "You can try to maintain control through force, destroying any world that questions you, but our message showed your tributary worlds that they have a choice too. If you destroy us, you prove that resistance is worth dying for. If you negotiate with us, you prove that change is possible." The Archon leader was silent for a long moment. Then it said, "What do you propose?" This was the moment they had prepared for. Emma took a deep breath and began. "Earth requests to be recognized as an independent world, not a tributary. We will not provide forced labor or resources under threat. However, we are willing to trade, to share knowledge, and to participate in the galactic community as equals." "Impossible," Vex Thor declared. "We have never allowed a species to remain independent after contact. It would set a precedent that would destroy the Council's authority. Perhaps that authority needs to change, Ambassador Tylrex said quietly. All eyes turned to him. The humans have exposed something we have ignored for too long. We rule through fear, not through consent. Our tributary worlds serve us because they are afraid, not because they choose to. Is that the legacy we want? The council chamber erupted in argument. Some members agreed with Tylrex. Others accused him of betrayal. The debate raged for hours while the three humans waited, not knowing if they would leave this station alive. Finally, the Archon leader called for silence. A vote will be held. The question is simple. Do we grant Earth independent status, the first world in 10,000 years, to receive such recognition? Scene staying. The vote was close. 6 members voted yes. 5 voted no. 1 abstained. By the smallest possible margin, Earth won its freedom. Commander Vexthor left the chamber in anger, but he was bound by the Council's decision. The Zentari fleet would withdraw from Earth's orbit. There would be no invasion, no subjugation. But the Council had one condition. Ambassador Tylrex explained it to the humans. You must share your story with other worlds. Not just the message you broadcast, but the full history of how humanity learned to overcome its divisions. The Council hopes that your example might help us build a better system than the one we have. Emma nodded slowly. We can do that. But we won't pretend we have all the answers. We'll share what we learned, both our successes and our failures. The news reached Earth within hours. The Zentari fleet was withdrawing. Humanity was free. The celebrations that erupted across the planet were unlike anything in recorded history. People danced in the streets, hugged strangers, and cried tears of joy and relief. But President Anderson's address to the world was measured. We won our freedom, but now we must prove we deserve it. The galaxy is watching us. We must show them that Earth can be a responsible member of the galactic community. Captain Jake Morrison returned to the ISS Unity with a new mission. He would lead humanity's first diplomatic voyage to the Corvan Harmony. The Corvans wanted to learn from Earth's example, and they were not alone. Dozens of species had requested meetings with human representatives. Lieutenant Ben Hayes received a promotion and a new assignment. He would command Earth's newly formed Galactic Affairs Division, coordinating contact with the hundreds of species that now wanted to communicate with humanity. It was overwhelming, but it was also exciting. Dr. Emma Clark found herself in an unexpected role. The Council asked her to help establish something new. A forum where tributary worlds could voice their concerns and negotiate for better terms. It was not full independence for those worlds, not yet, but it was a start. General Drake focused on building Earth's defenses, but not for conquest. We proved we can stand up to an empire, he told his staff. Now we need to make sure we never have to kneel again. But we defend. We don't attack. We protect. We don't conquer. The changes spread slowly across the galaxy. Some tributary worlds began negotiations for more autonomy. Others remained content with their status. But now it felt more like choice than compulsion. The Council itself began to transform, adding new voices and perspectives. It was not perfect. Commander Vexus Thor and others like him remained opposed to the changes. Some worlds resisted the new order, preferring the old certainties. There were setbacks and challenges, but something fundamental had shifted. One small blue world had said no to an empire, and the galaxy had listened. Months later, Emma stood before a gathering of young beings from 12 different species. They had come to Earth to study at the newly established Institute for Interspecies Understanding. She had been asked to give the opening lecture. "Welcome to Earth," she began. "You're here to learn about how humanity overcame its divisions and built a more peaceful world. But I want to start by being honest with you. We're still working on it. We still have problems. We still make mistakes. Peace is not something you achieve once and keep forever. It's something you have to choose every single day." She showed them images of Earth's history, the same images that had been in the message that changed everything. The wars and the reconciliations, the hatred and the healing, the failures and the determination to do better. The lesson of Earth is not that we're special or superior, Emma said. The lesson is that change is always possible, that courage matters, that freedom is worth fighting for, and that even the smallest voice can make a difference if it speaks the truth. Far away, on dozens of worlds, people watched recordings of Earth's story. Some were inspired to demand change in their own societies. Others simply found hope that things could be different. The Galactic Council would never be the same. The age of ruling through fear was ending, slowly replaced by something new. It would take generations to fully transform the galaxy's power structures. There would be resistance and setbacks, but on a quiet night on Earth, looking up at the stars, people knew they had changed history. One planet had refused to kneel, and the galaxy had begun to stand up. The message had been sent. The frenzy had passed. And now, the real work of building a better galaxy could begin. Earth remained unbroken, and its example shone like a light in the darkness, showing others that courage and hope were not just pretty words, but forces that could reshape reality itself. The story of Earth's defiance would be told for thousands of years to come, passed down through generations across hundreds of worlds, and always, it would end the same way. With the image of that pale blue dot, and the simple truth that freedom, once tasted, can never be forgotten.